An analyst's call can still make or break a stock. But should it? Well, simply put, probably not. Our Carol Massar is here with this week's list. Carol.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, everybody. We looked at calls from January 1st, 2009 to August 31st, 2011, made by 2,900 analysts at more than 200 firms on the world's biggest and most widely covered financial stocks. What we found is that on average, the firms got, listen to this, 1.3 stock recommendations correct out of every 16, so not great. And the so-called good analysts, when it comes to those making calls on financial stocks, are barely beating a coin flip. This includes JP Morgan Chase with less than half of its calls being correct, or about 45%, or 50 of 111 to be exact. Deutsche Bank, 46 of its 101 calls were right, or 46%. Then you've got Credit Suisse, 27 out of 57 calls, or 47%, were on the money. Also among what we're calling the coin flippers, Standard & Poor's Equity Research, a firm that many continue to really scratch their heads over when it comes to any kind of calls after their ratings debacle brought out by the financial crisis. Now, as for S&P, they had 48% correct calls by their analysts, or 14 out of 29. Goldman Sachs, a little bit better, with more than half their calls being correct, 55 out of 107, or 51%. Now, 53% is the winning percentage over at Credit Agricole Securities, or 20 out of 38. You know that firm. Most of those calls were by the firm's well-known financial analyst, Mike Mayo. And then Citigroup's analyst calls were right 55% of the time, or 54 out of 98 calls in total. Now, one of the more recognizable firms with one of the worst track records on analyst calls was RBS, with 31 of its 79 calls being on the mark for a winning percentage of 39%. And truly, I mean this, better than most, Raymond James, whose analysts got 16 out of 24 calls correct, or about 67% of the time. Of course, Eric, that means that 1/3 of the time they made a bad call. So, kind of interesting, right? We watch those analyst calls really closely, but it's interesting to see their track record.
They can still move stocks, indeed. Carol, nice to see you. That is the list for today.